What was your 9/11 experience?
I saw a lot of paper in the air, and I turned my head and looked upward.
9/11 was a seminal event in American history.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Where were you on 9/11? What was your experience? These were among the most frequently asked questions of that generation, and everyone had their story. It changed our relationship with the world and how we view it. It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years and how much has changed in this country. Some for the good, and some not so good. 9/11 brought us together in a profound way. Yet today, we've never been more fractured as a society. Would we be able to come together as a nation to face a common enemy, to unite in a single purpose with a single duty? We're here in New York today to talk to people about who we were, what we've lost, and where we're going. Where were you during 9/11?
I was in Rochester, New York at the time. It was my sophomore year. I was in my biology class.
I was a police officer in New Jersey, working the road.
I was home in the Lower East Side, 7th Street.
I was living in Illinois still, actually, and I was in college.
I was 8 years old, 3rd grade.
I was in the fire academy for the City of New Haven Fire Department.
I was actually working down here at a building 27 Whitehall. It's about 3 blocks away.
My sister worked at Deutsche Bank across the street. I worked in Midtown, and that morning I made her late.
I was late for school, and my mom's telling me, get up, I have to get to work. She worked in the North Tower on the 39th floor. I was going to school at 7:30, supposed to get there at 7:30. Got there a little late. She got to the ferry at 8 o'clock. From 8 to 8:30, it's 30 minutes from Staten Island to Manhattan. That's when she saw the first plane.
And there was a loud bang noise, and the dog jumped. And I thought it was somebody dropped something upstairs.
So you had physically, even in the Lower East Side, you were able to hear it?
No, hear it. I felt it.
And so I remember going in and on TV seeing that I think it was just the first tower had been hit at that point.
I was in 1st grade, and first thing we turned on, because we always watched the TV like morning show for us, say the Pledge of Allegiance, and we got cut off, and first thing we saw was all the tragedy that was happening here.
People were coming in the office and stuff, saying weird stuff like a helicopter crashing into one of the towers.
At first, like everybody else, we thought it was just an airplane crash, and we didn't think it was no terrorist attack.
I thought that it must have been a Cessna.
Something about a plane hitting the World Trade Center. I thought it was a small plane.
And then, realized that it was a bigger deal.
The ferry had stopped. They didn't know what was going on, and it actually turned back around to go back to Staten Island, and that's when they saw the second plane hit.
I remember my mother telling me, calling me crying, saying, we're under attack. She told me to turn on the TV. I turned on the TV pretty much just in time, like right after the second plane hit.
I heard kind of like a movie when you hear that sound where the plane is crashing or going down, and an explosion, and like it was kind of weird because we were looking on TV and it happened at the same time.
So you heard it?
The second one, yeah.
We got notification that the towers were hit, and me being in New York, we were asked to be ready to be deployed to the city to help.
And were you?
No, I was told to stay put, and the city handled everything, but all the guys in the department wanted to go and help.
I looked outside the window, and there was people like kind of running down the block. I saw a lot of paper in the air, and I turned my head and looked upward, and then there was like tons of aluminum, just strips hanging in midair, and papers and station, a lot of stuff flying in the air. It was very surreal.
It's just like everybody else. It seemed like time stopped, you know? Just didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't know if we were being under attack, just not only in New York City, but across the United States.
All the news is coming at the same time. It's very confusing. The Pentagon had like a plane hit it and all of this happening. So I went outside, saw the giant fire in the southernmost tower. And I remember thinking, how the hell are they going to get a ladder up there? And then it kind of started hitting that this is going to be real bad.
I remember going to the guidance counselor's office, because most of us had parents who worked in New York City. And I remember walking by and seeing it packed. I just remember it kind of in slow motion, walking by and being like, wow, this is real. This is for real.
Do you remember 9/11?
I do.
Really? What were your thoughts as a kid when it happened?
Well, to be honest, it was just a scary situation, you know. I just remember my mom rushing to my school, picking me and my brothers up, taking us home. I'm from the Bronx, New York, so I was able to see the smoke from my window.
The building started shaking, and at that point, I just said, yo, I don't know what the hell y'all gonna do, but I'm getting the F out of here. And I was just jumping stairs, skipping steps to get down the building in case I didn't know if our building was gonna fall or something was gonna fall over on us. The owner's brother, he said, Carl, where's my brother? And I said, I don't know, Johnny, but if he has any sense, he's gonna be right down behind us. See you later.
So I left Midtown and headed to downtown and was trying to call my sister but couldn't get through, and finally got one phone call through, which was my mom's boss, who said to me, your sister's in Jersey, get out of New York.
Well, it took me about 20 minutes to get to Brooklyn, walking over the Brooklyn Bridge, because there was smoke coming down as we were going up, and then it started to engulf everybody, and my eyes started burning. A lady threw some Poland Spring in my eyes, and then as I was thinking her, the second building started collapsing, and I just ran for my life at that point.
Very, very difficult for her. They lost like 5 or 6 co-workers. One of the guys was in a wheelchair, and they had to leave him because if her boss and her assistant manager didn't leave him, the building was going to come down on everyone. He only had 4 or 5 flights of stairs left to go. My mom always used to tell me, you saved my life, because that day they actually had a meeting at Windows of the World. So it's sad, but it's something I always take with me.
A lot of us had parents who were there, and some of our parents had traumatic experiences and were never the same after. People who worked in the towers. And I remember this one lady who was just so full of joy, would bring oranges to all our Little League games. She was running out of the towers, and one of her friends who she ran out with, she doesn't know what happened, but didn't make it, and was just kind of forever scarred.
I had a friend that died in the towers. He went in the towers to help, He was Richie Rodriguez, PAPD, and he was assigned to the training academy and through the Port Authority, and actually responded from the Jersey side over to the towers. And he was the type of guy who would, no matter what was happening, whether he was on duty or off duty, to go and help. And that goes for every fire department member in the city, police officer. Whether you're off or working or not working, you wanted to go and help.
At what point did you know and realize that this was an attack?
Not until I got home that night.
Okay.
And started, seeing the news reports. But at that point, we were just so happy that my whole family had made it through this and made it home that,
You must have been scared.
Yes.
Thinking your sister was down here.
Yes.
Not knowing.
I was scared that I was going to die at the point when the second tower fell, because I saw a big ass piece of it sort of hit and bounce off of the building, like maybe a block away.
For 3 days straight, we watched TV for over 12 hours straight, watching television, and it felt like time just flew by. We didn't know what to do.
It was really emotional, just glued to the TV set, and trying to find out information and how we could help.
Do you remember understanding what was happening? Like, did you get it was a terrorist attack and what the ramifications of that was?
Yeah, no, I think on that day, I remember being like, I have no idea what's happening. And then later in the day, some folks seem to be saying, we've been attacked and we've got to do something about it.
After a while, I understood, you know, I was seeing like everyone panicking.
Would you say, if you look at all the different historical experiences you've gone through in your life, is that the number one most?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was just, you know, it shook our nation up, you know.
It'll definitely be something that'll be like tattooed into my memory forever.
So a couple of days after 9/11, my wife and I heard that the Javits Center was a intake center for volunteers. There were hundreds of people who came here to volunteer. Massive amounts of people lined up. I kind of walked around the corner. I left my wife because I saw a group of people lined up over here off of 11th Avenue. Turns out they were taking first responder volunteers. Obviously, I'm not a first responder, but I wanted to help in some way, so I went along with them. The first responders, incredibly, came from all over the country. People that I was talking to, they were from Texas, they were from Tennessee, they were from up and down the East Coast. They just drove through the night in order to get here to help out. So they loaded us onto these buses and these trams, and as we were driving down, it was really quiet. The only conversation was where you were from. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, if I wasn't scared. And the eeriest part of it was something that, God, I'll never forget it. There were these centers they had set up for volunteers who were making food, and they had lined up right down West End Avenue as we're driving by outside of these centers where they were preparing the food, and they just were throwing the sandwiches at us, at the buses, and it was all closed up. The windows were closed, so it would just hit the window and just bounce off, and we're just looking at them, dumbfounded, astonished. But it just spoke to the deep-seated need, the desperate need for people to help. They were so desperate, they were throwing their sandwiches at us. And we just kind of looked at each other, not really knowing what to do, how to respond. It was disquieting, to say the least. Does 9/11 have any real meaning to you as a young person?
Yeah, I think to me, I'm kind of like right on the cusp of where I can barely remember in my mind. But I know my sister's 2 years younger, and she just doesn't have an idea about like what it feels like to have lived kind of through that. But I think that everybody, no matter what age, they do, like it resonates with them.
It still has an impact.
Absolutely.
I wonder if there's a generational divide between people like you and me who experienced it and younger people who didn't. I wonder if they have that same fear because they never experienced a traumatic attack like we did during 9/11.
No, but then there are also the children of all those people of 9/11 who, they didn't experience it, but they were born from it, through it, or after it.
They were born of the trauma.
Right. And, they must have kind of our feeling of it because they were affected much more by it, right?
People were actually trying to slaughter as many Americans as possible. Like, as a kid, how do you process that?
So that's the part that I didn't really understand until about 4 or 5 years later. I didn't understand that aspect of it. And it was tough, it was tough because there's people jumping out buildings, and it's just a sad situation. It's tragic.
I actually just saw the other day somebody comment on a social media platform. They are so young, I think they're like 15 probably. They didn't personally experience 9/11 at all, or any probably of the effects of it. But it's such an important thing to their life because it's so like changed the country, and they understand that. Like with the Afghanistan situation. So yeah, I think it will, no matter when you were born, impact people for generations, and they'll feel personal connection to it.
I think as time is going on, a lot of people just want to forget. A lot of people just want to forget, and then we got a lot of things going on right now, so it's kind of hard to dwell on the past because as people living in New York City, we always got to attack something. Every day is something new's coming out.
We're evolving all the time.
Yeah, so it's hard to really look at something that was so long ago, I do believe that it should still, we should still talk about it, It should be spoken about, We don't want to forget it, but especially with COVID and injustice to people that's going on right now, I just believe, people got a lot going on,
I really think that a lot of them just don't care. This society right now is so sad because they could see somebody on the floor and they just walk over them instead of helping them. You know, it's just, now everything is so out of control. People don't care about nothing, only about themselves. They don't care about the next person. It's not like before, like back in the days when I was growing up, at least if there was somebody hurt, you help them. Now they walk right over them and rob them.
We spend so much time in social media. We spend so much time in, like, you know, pop culture. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, like, you know, people doesn't realize how impactful 9/11 was to us.
Now, I was raised to be patriotic, and I'm very patriotic. And after 9/11, there was a large surge of patriotism. Do you think that nowadays, especially among people your age, if you say I'm a patriot, people look at you and say, oh, that means you're jingoistic, that means you're racist. Is that association you think is real, or do you think that's also not really true?
I think that nationalism, in a sense, is something that people have tried to hide.
I think America is one of the best countries. This is what I believe, because we have a lot of freedom. Maybe we have too much freedom, and that's why it's so kind of messed up.
I went to school in Ohio. I'm from Maryland, and so I'm right on the line in that sense. And I mean, I just see 50-50. You're either like full-on American, you love this country, or you are happy you're here, but you're not going to be an evangelist about America. You know what I mean?
America!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I love this country. This is literally the best country in the world. I don't care what anybody has to say. You can love other countries. I love to travel. I love to get out. No, America is the best country. And yes, things happen here. Yes, we have bad people here still, but no, I am a patriot. I love this country. It's the greatest country, and can't say anything less than that.
I know you have a tattoo of the American flag. Do people ever yell at you, scream at you because of it?
I've never got yelled at or screamed at. I've definitely got asked, why do you have that? Why would you put that on you? It's not your body. Get away. That's all I gotta say.
They dropped us off incomprehensibly right here. And why that was so bizarre to me was because I worked at Lehman Brothers, and this was the Lehman Brothers office. This is where I would go in every morning to go to work. The strangest and saddest part of it was the lobby right here where I entered was a makeshift morgue. And I couldn't see exactly what was there because it was all sheeted off with plastic sheeting. But this whole area over here to the left and over there to the right was the morgue. Right in the lobby of the place that I went in every morning to go to work. The feeling was to see this happening right next door. All it was a 10, 12-story pile of rubble. And it was such a gorgeous day. And if you looked in this direction toward New Jersey and the Hudson River, it was this bucolic, gorgeous, clear day. It's as if nothing had happened. Nothing. And if you just shifted your perspective, changed your position, and you look this way, it was a post-apocalyptic horror. And it was just the most bizarre contrast between the two, standing right here. Ultimately, it was my task to work behind the desk and to give those first responders anything they needed. Where I was standing, the air quality wasn't that bad. It was not great, but it wasn't awful. So it wasn't something that I certainly was thinking about. But I know every foot you walk closer to ground zero, the air deteriorated significantly. And for the first responders who were there, there's no way they didn't know the health hazards that they were facing. It's impossible. The air was too thick, it was too acrid. They had to know that this ultimately was going to have long-term effects on their health. And when people call them heroes, this is just another reason why these guys really are heroes. How did we respond as a nation after 9/11, do you think?
Came together, you know, came together as a country and unified in the response to the attacks, and just like it was one big American family.
You know, there were gifts and messages and so forth pouring in from all over the world. Even my hometown that makes Red Wing boots sent boots for the firemen, you know, and everybody was trying to help, I think. And New York is so resilient that everybody pitched in.
Within days of the attacks, seemingly every house had an American flag. There were all these vigils. It did seem like in my lifetime the most the U.S. has really been brought together across, you know, political lines.
I feel like that brought us together, and it really showed what Americans can do when we all, you know, are feeling the same pain. But I feel like nowadays it doesn't happen. I feel like we just bring on the pandemic. I mean, it should have brought us together, and instead it's ripping us apart.
I think we're very divided.
I mean, in some places you have a flag out that almost like hate speech to some people.
The American flag, unfortunately, I mean, for some people it just seems to be kind of associated with Trumpism.
Which is weird.
Division.
It's the American flag.
I've noticed some people kind of trying to reclaim it who aren't on the right, which I think is good. We need to, if we're not together in this, we're going to be in trouble.
And as a nation, we should be, you know, one nation and be helpful and respectful and caring, no matter what walk of life you come from. But police department and fire department are a unique bunch. Satisfaction of the job is helping people at the end of the day, right?
The police then were viewed as unadulterated heroes. Everyone in the country. By some segment of the population today, they're viewed as unadulterated villains.
No way.
How do you feel about that?
Where were they? Why weren't these people helping? Or, I mean, obviously people on the other side of the country can't help, but if the people even here in New York City that think everything is bad in America for lots of reasons, but that could be one of them. And where were they helping? They weren't. It was police, it was, or I should say law enforcement, it was fire, it was military, it was all these other people helping out, and where were they? Escaping.
I would say it's in between. I would say those specific police officers, yes, they're heroes. I would say the ones that have been doing the things that have happened in the last few years, not heroes. I would base people on individuals, not as a group. So there's some good cops, there's some bad cops.
I, for one, don't think that people like the, you know, police, things like that are pure evil. I know that in my recent, you know, history, my house burnt down. And so my mom, she was gonna pass away, had the, you know, the authorities and the police and the firefighters not gotten there to, you know, help her. And they got in there, they were able to save her, and they saved her life because of that.
There's a lot of good too, you know. I mean, they help us. You know, you call 911, they're there for you. You know, why wouldn't you want police to help you? You know, I don't understand why that would come to play.
For the most part, your average police officer is looking to protect people and put their own life on the line to do so.
Just imagine if we didn't have any cops that didn't care. It'd be like the Wild Wild West.
Do you have any doubt in your mind that if, God forbid, another 9/11 type attack happened, that this generation of firefighters, police officers will not do the same exact thing?
They'll do the same exact thing.
We all do it, you know, no matter what, you know. You just that's the nature of the business, nature of the job, you know.
God forbid if we had another 9/11, those guys would do the same exact thing. Without it, I don't have a doubt in my mind. Those guys would do the same exact thing to save any life, a black life, a white life, a purple, orange, or green life. They would do the same thing, because even in that psychological moment where they're going into that building, in the back of their mind, I'm sure a couple or a few of them thought, I'm not going to make it out of this. They'll always have that spirit, because that's the American spirit. That's the true American spirit.
They would run back in and save people. I believe they will do that, because that's their job.
I have 100% faith in the authorities and, you know, those people to be the heroes that they're supposed to be.
When you look at how fractured we are today, do you look at that time back then and how we were together with some sadness?
I think it's all media. Because I think it's always been
Social media, television, news, cable news.
Especially, especially this right here. This is the cell phone is just it's a blessing and it's not, because I think there's always been a Republican, Democrat, and everybody's always had different points of view. But now that just social media just can push you in either direction, they kind of have us arguing. We're all the same. We're all the same people.
That's the narrative you're hearing. We're fractured. We're separated. We're at each other's throats. But you don't feel that way.
Nah. Look at sports. Sports gives me hope. Music gives me hope. Things like that gives me hope. That we're not as destroyed as the media and when you pick up your phone and all of that stuff you see. It's not that bad. In real life, it isn't that bad, I believe.
A black man in America, I can't say that. I've always took the opinion that I can do anything, and I never really gave much thought to someone designing things against me or holding me back, because I just can't be helped.
Social media, 24-hour TV, it changed everything. Like, things are a lot worse than people think. Things are a lot worse than they actually are, because sound bites.
The more salacious, the better.
Exactly.
I almost kind of feel like if social media was done away with for a little while, we'd have a better chance of coming together. Maybe it's cable news as well. I don't know.
How meaningful is 9/11 to you?
To me now, and now that I'm older, it's really meaningful because I can look back and I can see it as a defining moment in our country's history. It's like when people were able to come together. And as a young person, growing up, I don't really see a whole lot of moments of when our country comes together now.
Terrorism thought they could take down, us down, but for a brief time, maybe they did, but they brought us together at the time like never before, and it's just in hindsight, it's just too bad all the lives that were lost,
While I was working at Lehman Brothers, one of my most active clients at the time was a company called ESpeed. And I would come see them a few times a month, sometimes a few times a week, and we'd come to the World Trade Center where they were based. I developed a pretty close relationship with the ESpeed guys. At a certain point, they asked me if I would consider ever coming to work with them. And it was flattering, and a place that I wouldn't have minded working, but I was happy where I was, and I politely declined. Well, it turned out every single person who worked for ESpeed was killed. Cantor Fitzgerald itself, the company that owned them, was decimated, but ESpeed had no survivors. It's difficult to even think about now. These are good people who I had a good relationship with. And of course you think about what would be if I had worked there. My wife and my child at the time, how that would have all played out.
You don't know when your last moment is. I think that's what I took away from it the most. So I feel like if you have a special moment with somebody, don't wait. If you want to do something with your life, if you have a moment that you want to embrace or something that you want to do with yourself, don't wait. Go for it and give it your best and be honest and have a genuine sense about yourself. Don't be disingenuous.
Are you hopeful that we will be able to unify as a nation going forward, or are you more pessimistic?
Well, a friend of mine said one time, America always does the right thing. So I hope he was right.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.